All right, let's dive deep today, huh? We're going to explore this message of hope and strength, that's in Isaiah 41:10. Fear not, for I am with you. We're breaking down a sermon, actually. It's called Fear Not, for God is with you. And it really doesn't matter what you're going through, I think there's some insights here for everybody.
You know what I think is really fascinating? That this verse just tackles fear, head on. It doesn't pretend that things are going to be easy or that we won't face any challenges, but instead it offers this like powerful way to deal with it, rooted in faith.
It really does, yeah. It's like this direct message,
Yeah.
it just cuts through all the noise and chaos of life. And the speaker, they start off by acknowledging those fears, right? Like the uncertainty, the struggles, all those battles that sometimes feel like you just can't win. And then they hit you with this incredible verse from Isaiah. It's like, woo, like a breath of fresh air.
And the way they use that imagery of fear, that's brilliant. Fear is a weapon, right? Used against us to paralyze us, to steal our joy. But then, they counter that with God's reassurance. Don't be afraid, because he is with us. Plain and simple.
It is so powerful. It's not about ignoring fear or, pretending it isn't there. It's about recognizing it.
Yeah.
And then choosing to lean on something bigger than ourselves. And to really make that point, the speaker brings us in some amazing stories from the Bible.
Oh, yeah. Moses at the Red Sea.
Yeah.
David facing Goliath. And then there's Daniel in the lion's den. And, for anyone who's not familiar with those stories, those are some classic tales of courage and faith. Those people had incredible odds stacked against them.
I love that story about Moses. Think about it, right? You're standing there, the sea in front of you, and this whole army behind you. Talk about feeling trapped, right?
Yeah.
But Moses, he chose to trust God's guidance, even when there didn't seem to be any way forward. I mean, come on, that's got to make you think, right? What if we had that kind of faith in our own lives? What could we accomplish?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what's so powerful about these stories. They're a reminder that we're not alone in our struggles. Sickness, money problems, heartbreak, or even just like the everyday uncertainty of life. God was there with them. And the speaker's point is, he's here with us too.
Totally. And then the speaker brings in Matthew 28:20. It says, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. That's way more than just a nice thought. It's like this powerful statement affirming that God is always there, no matter what. You can rely on it.
And it's so interesting because the speaker doesn't just leave it at that, right? Like, okay, God's present. They go deeper and explore what that presence actually means, how powerful it is. Don't be discouraged, they say, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you.
Yeah, they're basically saying, look, God's not only here with you, he's ready to get to work and help you tackle those challenges. And to back that up, they remind us who God is, right? He's the one true God, the one who performed all those incredible miracles we read about.
And that part where they bring in 2 Corinthians 12:9, that's really insightful, I think. The verse says, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. It's kind of a paradox, isn't it?
It really is. It's like those times when we feel our most vulnerable, the most depleted. Those are the times when we're actually the most open to experiencing God's strength.
We become, like these empty vessels ready to be filled with his power. So if you're feeling overwhelmed or like you just can't go on, remember that's exactly when God's strength can become your support. Let go,
Yeah.
allow him to carry you.
It's like they're saying, hey, you don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to be strong all the time. It's okay to lean on something bigger than yourself. And speaking of leaning, the speaker then moves on to God's promise. Specifically that part where it says, I will hold you up with my victorious right hand. Now, before we dive into what that image means, let's take a second to let everything sink in.
I mean, that image, right? God's right hand, it's incredibly powerful. Think about it. In ancient times, the right hand, that was the symbol of strength, authority, victory. So when it says God will hold us up with his victorious right hand, that's a promise, incredible support, protection, and like ultimate triumph.
He's saying, hey, I got you. I won't let you fall. And I love that the speaker points out, this victory, it might not always look like what we think it should. It's not always about like no problems, no challenges. It's more about, finding that strength to endure them.
Exactly. It's a nuanced view of victory, right? Not just winning every battle, but finding that peace, being resilient even when things are hard, knowing that even when the storm's raging all around, we have this anchor, in God's hand. He's not going anywhere.
That's a very comforting thought, isn't it? Like, okay, life might throw some curveballs.
Yeah.
But I'm not facing them alone. I have this, like, incredible source of strength, guidance to help me through it all.
Yes. And I think that's really where the victory lies, you know? It's that unwavering connection with the divine, even in the middle of challenges. Finding that inner peace, knowing that no matter what, you're held, you're
Whatnot.
supported.
It's funny, when I think about those like classic images of victory,
Yeah.
right? Like the athlete crossing the finish line
Hmm.
or the warrior, raising their sword. It all seems so fleeting.
Yeah.
But this victory, the kind the speaker's talking about, it feels so much deeper, it lasts.
Absolutely. It doesn't depend on what's happening outside or what you achieve, you know? It's a victory of the spirit, knowing who you are, whose you are.
And speaking of knowing, right?
Mm.
The speaker wraps up with this really direct call to action. They're talking to anyone who hasn't really experienced this profound connection with God yet. And they basically say, turn to him, surrender your fears, let go of those burdens.
It is a beautiful invitation, isn't it? And the prayer at the end, oh man, it's so moving. It's filled with this gratitude for God's support. But it's also like this very honest plea for help, help to trust him, especially when times are tough.
Like they're saying, look, I get it. Trusting isn't always easy, especially when things go wrong. But it's in those moments, right? That's when we need to lean into our faith the most.
It's not about having all the answers or never being afraid. It's about, acknowledging those fears and choosing to trust in something bigger than yourself, knowing you don't have to go through those tough times alone.
It's that surrender, right?
Yeah.
You let go of that need to control everything.
Yeah.
And you allow yourself to be held, guided by something greater.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of this message, right? It's for everybody. It doesn't matter who you are, what you believe, what's happening in your life. That source of strength and comfort, it's always there, waiting for us to tap into it.
Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive into this powerful message, let's recap those key takeaways. God's always there, right? No matter what we face, we're never truly alone. And his strength, it becomes our strength when we're feeling weak. He lifts us up, carries us through.
And that image of God's promise, his right hand holding us up, giving us that unwavering support, even when we're afraid or facing hardship.
It's a lot to think about, right? And it brings up this question for you, the listener. How might, actively reflecting on this message, this idea of fear not, how could it change how you deal with your own challenges or when you're feeling uncertain?
That's something to really think about. Could this message change your perspective, your actions, your ability to get through the ups and downs of life?
I would love to hear your thoughts on that. It's like we get this amazing toolkit for life, but we actually have to use it.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. It's one thing to hear this message, right? But we got to internalize it, really let it shape how we see the world and how we react to those challenges.
And that's when the real change happens, right?
Yeah.
When we go beyond just knowing about God's presence, his power, his promises, and we start to actually experience them in a real way.
It's like, think about a recipe, right? You can read it, but until you actually taste the food, you don't really get it. Same with these concepts. We can understand them in our heads, but until we experience them, we haven't really grasped how powerful they are.
That's
Yeah.
a good analogy. We've really only scratched the surface here. But these ideas, they're powerful, I really believe that.
Oh, absolutely. As you go through your day, your week, your life, think about how this message of hope and strength, how it fits into your own journey.
What are you afraid of right now?
Yeah.
What could you maybe surrender to a higher power? Where do you need a little extra strength to keep going? And how can you hold on to that promise that God's always there to support you, even when things are tough?
Those are good questions to think about. And remember, you don't need to have all the answers. Just keep exploring, Keep searching for that connection. See how it can bring you comfort, courage, and ultimately that deeper sense of peace in your life.
Until next time, keep diving deep.